All right, another tier rankings video, the last regular season tier rankings video. After this week, we will know which teams are in the playoffs and which teams aren't. This is what I had last week, so let's reset it and then come up with our new tier rankings. My new tier rankings, not ours. But yeah, let's just get into it. Starting off, as always, with the Cincinnati Bengals. They just happen to be first, so that's why they always get started off with. I kind of have to put them in the mid tier. I put them there last week, and they played Kansas City relatively tough in that game, but just this is a team built to have Joe Burrow. Give Jake Browning credit. He had his moments. He showed he's at least a capable backup in this league, but he's not Joe Burrow, so that's where they are. And the Giants, again, still remain in a plucky but bad tier. They actually have been playing pretty good football this past month or so. No one's talking about it because at this point, who cares? But, it's worth noting. The 49ers, who last time I did this, I didn't even, I believe we haven't talked about I could be wrong. I'm trying to remember if I did this, have we talked about the Ravens game or not. Either way, they're still Super Bowl contenders. They were able to beat Washington pretty handedly. It was close for a bit. Washington hung around for a bit, but, clearly the better team won there. The Saints, huge win against Tampa Bay. They are capable of still doing that to teams defensively. They're in the maybe playoffs tier, and they might get in. They need some help. They need either a Tampa Bay loss or they need a Packers and Seahawks loss to get in. So they definitely need some help, but they feel like a playoff, a maybe playoff caliber team feels right at this point, I think. The Chicago Bears, honestly, the Bears, I kind of have been pretty low on when they've been on this run, but that's probably unfair at this point. I'm going to actually throw them all the way up into the maybe playoffs tier. Now, they're clinched out. They're not going to make the playoffs, but just in terms of how they're playing right now, they're playing good football. And for Green Bay, who needs to beat Chicago to get in, technically they could still get in if they get a lot of help, but realistically, they need to beat Chicago to get in this scenario. So because of that, that's where they're currently at. The Cardinals, but I think Packers are playing good football, and hey, defense finally didn't look terrible for a week, and their offense is playing great. The Cardinals are, beat the Eagles. I mean, that's pretty good. I still think they're plucky but bad. I think Kyler Murray is good enough. He can win you a couple games, but he's not going to win you, a bunch more. So definitely, hey, I don't know. If I'm the Cardinals at this point, I'm keeping Kyler. I'm using that pick to help build a team around him. That's how I view it. The Ravens are obviously Super Bowl contenders. They're Super Bowl favorites at this point. The Cowboys, I had them as Super Bowl contenders. Then I believe I had another video. I did my power rankings. I had them a little bit lower. So I'm still conflicted on them. And I probably contradict myself because I'm still like, I think they're fringe. I think they're right here. I'm not sure if they're Super Bowl contenders, but I'm going to give them the Super Bowl contenders tag at this point. I think they've done enough to warrant it, and especially in the NFC, there isn't a ton of other, although, again, not really how I'm thinking. I'm thinking in terms of talent level. NFC, though, they feel like them and Detroit are the biggest threat, and let's go to Detroit as well. Why not? They played well. Their defense, here's why I think I'm going to put them in this tier, even though I've had them in the for sure playoffs, however, tier, is I kept saying, however, their defense. Their defense is consistently getting turnovers. And while I don't know if you want to rely on that, you can make the playoffs that way and go on a deep playoff run that way if you have an elite offense. Their offense has shown a tendency to be elite. They are the one kind of big dog in the NFC who hasn't gotten crushed by the 49ers this season. So you got that going for you. I mean, it's because they haven't played. But still, it gives you a little bit of confidence there. I'll throw them in that tier. Why not? The Bills, I still think they're a for sure playoffs, however, caliber team. Again, they are not clinched in, although if they win, they would be the 2 seed. That's how crazy it is. If they lose, I kind of think they don't make the playoffs in that scenario. If they lose, they would need either a Jacksonville or a Steelers loss, but the Steelers play the Ravens, who are going to be resting starters, you would assume, and the Jaguars are playing the Titans, who haven't been playing great. So still a chance the Bills get in with a loss. Again, crazy situation, but, they're a really good football team, and this offense is capable of putting up a lot of points, and their defense has been playing great football as of late. They're a really good football team. They might not make it in, though. They might have to win to get in. The Chargers are just bad without Herbert. The Broncos are, I don't know, they're fine. Honestly, I'm gonna put them in plucky but bad. Like I think Wilson. Listen, I think Stidham's fine. I do think they lose something putting in Wilson though. I don't know. Just a weird season Denver has had. The Chiefs are. They're still in the first-year playoffs, however, tier. Listen, people are ready to write off Kansas City, and I get it. This offense has looked tough, but like I'm just saying, don't completely write them off. I know it's looking tough. I know it's looking like they're over, but they still have, still have Patrick Mahomes. They still have one of the best defenses in football. They have a top 5 defense and Patrick Mahomes. And, Rashee Rice can really make plays. And now that he's starting to become a bigger part of that offense, if you can get Kelsey kind of back to Kelsey for just a few games, they are capable of going on a run, but again, there's a lot of ifs there, so I can't put them in the contenders tier right yet. The Falcons are, they're mid. Again, they can't stop turning the ball over, man. I mean, it's a disaster, and it's kind of thing we talked about preseason. They famously did not try and get Lamar Jackson, and made it clear they weren't trying to get Lamar Jackson, although they did try to get Deshaun Watson 2 years ago, weirdly. But last year, they kind of said, we're not going to put a bunch of resources in the quarterback position. We are going to try and make sure we build a team around. We're going to draft Bijan Robinson with the 8th overall pick. In hindsight, I think maybe trading up and trying to get, Anthony Richardson might have been a smarter move, even though he got hurt, something like that. I think, doing something to get the quarterback position at the end of the day, doesn't matter how much talent you have. If you don't have a quarterback, you don't have anything. And, the coaching staff also deserves criticism. The Eagles, man, a team that was, at one point, Super Bowl favorites, I believe. You can't put them in Super Bowl contenders. Can't even think about that. And I don't think you could even put them in the first-year playoffs. However, I'm going to put them all the way down to the mid-tier at this point. They're playing such bad football right now. And, listen, they're going to be in the playoffs, but their defense is a bad defense. Their defense will be the worst defense to make the playoffs. It just will be. And their offense isn't playing great right now. So when you have a 15th ranked offense and a bottom 5 defense, it's kind of a wonder to think about how they won as many games as they did. The coaching isn't great defensively. It's really, really good offensively, but that's kind of all they have going for them. And because of that, I can't feel confident at all about this Philadelphia team. The Browns are, again, their first-year playoffs, however, at this point. I still have some concerns about, okay, is this Joe Flacco thing really going to last? But as they're playing right now, if this team has a good offense, that's a real threat to go on a deep run, which I was saying was just not going to happen for a while. The Texans, I'm going to put them in first-year playoffs, however. Now that Stroud is back, they look a lot better. Their playoffs start now. They have to beat the Colts, who I think I'm going to put in the maybe playoffs tier, because Colts, again, kind of consistent across the board. What Gardner Minshew are you going to get week in and week out? Those two teams are playing for a playoff. It's a playoff game. On Saturday night, it will be a playoff game between those two teams, and I think that I would predict the Texans to win in this scenario. The Rams also feel like a for-sure playoff team at this point. They've gotten better as the season has gone on. They have weapons. They are kind of the team that you don't want to play. Although Stafford, again, which Stafford is going to show up in any given game is worth noting, but they've already clinched the playoffs. They feel good there. In Miami, I'm still going to put them in the Super Bowl contenders tier. They got crushed by Baltimore, and that's got to be so demoralizing. But I still think they can hang with any other team in football. I think Baltimore is the favorite at this point, and if they can either get some help with someone else beating Baltimore, or if they can, have a couple things go their way, I think they can beat anyone else in the league, and I do think they're still a very good team. But yeah, it was a tough week. No getting around that. The Vikings, I don't know. I've been low on the Vikings all season, and then I finally locked them up to beat the Packers, which was stupid of me. Shouldn't have done that, but I'm going with plucky but bad. Just this offense is just, I don't know. They would have been a really interesting team with Kirk Cousins. That's what I'll say about them. Patriots are, I don't know. I'll put them into plucky but bad. Their defense has been playing well as of late. Jets, no, they're just bad. Panthers are just bad as well. The Pittsburgh Steelers, can never count out the Pittsburgh Steelers, even though we all did count out the Pittsburgh Steelers. We all said, we're so stupid, us people that talk football, right? This is going to be the year Mike Tomlin doesn't get 500. No, there's never going to be a year Mike Tomlin's team finishes below 500. I still think that they are maybe playoff caliber team, which is higher than a half. I think I might have even put them in plucky but bad at one point. But that's because with Mitchell Trubisky, that's how they looked. And I didn't think Mason Rudolph was going to save this team, but he's been their best quarterback. And so for the Steelers and Browns to kind of in a weird spot where it's quarterbacks who have started for them late in the season, granted, Rudolph's been there for a few years, Flacco hasn't, but still, I mean, that's kind of a big part for Pittsburgh and why I'm more high on them than I had been, is if they can just have competent quarterback play, this is an interesting team. The Seahawks, man, they just keep losing games that it feels like they should win. I still think they're in the maybe playoffs caliber team, but at a certain point, their defense isn't playing well enough to feel great about them. The offense is good, but they kind of feel similarly with them as I do with Philadelphia right now. So maybe you could even argue I'm too high on Seattle right now. So, but that's where I have them. Tampa Bay, I'm also putting in the maybe playoff tier. I got very excited about them. Last week I put them in the first sure playoffs, however, tier. But this kind of reminded you of if they can't run the football, they're still going to try to run the football, and it's just going to get really ugly offensively. Once they kind of pushed the ball down the field, they were able to make things happen, but it was too little too late, and some really costly turnovers. And Saints are a good team. Saints they play Tampa Bay well. It kind of is what it is. All Tampa Bay has to do is beat Carolina, and they're in. Their playoffs start a week early, and they get a very easy playoff matchup. That's the way you look at it, but still, nothing is guaranteed in the NFL. And Tampa Bay's defense still isn't good. It's just not. Raiders kind of got screwed a little bit by a call at the end there, but still, it was a competitive game. It came up a little bit short. I'm going to put them in the mid tier. Their offense has just been too inconsistent all season. I think their defense, I did not expect the Raiders to be a defensive team heading into the season. That's the way it worked out. Just goes to show how unpredictable the NFL is. But respectable season for the Raiders. They showed a lot of fight. A very impressive year for a non-playoff team, I think, by the Raiders. The Titans are, plucky but bad. They're not playing great football right now. They're just not. The Washington football team, they're just bad. And then the Jaguars are an interesting team as well. I've been lower on them all season long. I think I'm going to still keep them in the maybe playoffs tier. I considered for a second dropping them to mid. I believe I had them maybe playoffs last. I don't remember what I had last week, actually. You can rewind to the beginning of this video if you want to check out for yourself. I think maybe playoffs feels fair, in my opinion. Again, if they can get good quarterback play, which right now, who knows the health of Trevor Lawrence, and they need to win next week. So, they might be relying on CJ Beathard to beat the Titans to get into the playoffs. That's kind of a crazy scenario that could come up here for Jacksonville. But if their defense is back, which it looked back against a bad team, but still, a shutout is a shutout. Really good stuff by them. If their defense is back and Trevor Lawrence can get healthy, they're still a valuable team, but just is that going to happen? I don't know. So, yeah, that is my tiers. Next week, I probably won't talk about every single team. I'll probably just go to the playoff teams at that point. So, probably my last full 32-team tier rankings of the season. This was a fun thing. First year I did this, and this ended up being a pretty enjoyable thing, and it seemed like people enjoyed it as well. So thank you to all those who, if this is your first one, or if this is, if you've been watching every week, appreciate you checking these out. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.